Last year, Doak Walker Award winner Ollie Gordon proved to be the best running back in the country by far, and Cam Scattebo just proved last night that he is the best running back in the country this season, also proving that the big dogs that like to run the ball come to Big 12 country.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day O State. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get the regular season action you're looking for with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 back in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet is a winner, make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to get started. Meanwhile, we get started in the conversation of RBU. Oklahoma State has a claim to that to some degree in this conference, and now Cam Scattebo just proved to be the best running back in America, which is a big deal because he voiced his opinion before the game even started, which of course turned into bulletin board material for the Texas defense, which is likely the best defense in the country by far. What we did witness is at least 8-9 guys that are going to have the opportunity to play in the NFL on the starting defense for Texas. They also had some rotational pieces that are just sophomores and juniors that are going to have ample opportunity to provide the same. And before this last couple of weeks, I firmly did also believe that Ashton Jeanty was the best running back in America. But then after watching what Cam Scattebo did against Texas, and even likewise to some degree against Iowa State in the Big 12 title game, they are in comparison. Okay, that's fair, but they're not the same, right? If you put Cam Scattebo against Nevada and San Jose State and Hawaii and Portland State, likely he would be approaching the Barry Sanders numbers as well. Thankfully, Ashton Jeanty did not get those Barry Sanders numbers, and the reason I would have been frustrated if he would have surpassed Barry Sanders as the best rushing season in college football history is because he did it against the fluff schedule. Not only that, he was playing in fourth quarters when they were up by 30, 40 points because they wanted him to continue to rack up the yards, which is the exact opposite of Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders only played in a handful of fourth quarters in that 1988 season. Even when the coaches and his teammates were saying, hey, go back out there, he was like, no, I'm good. We're up by 20. It's about to be the fourth quarter. I'm just going to chill. I'm going to go take a nap. Literally, he would actually go do that. So Ashton Jeanty got up to hundreds of yards in fourth quarters of games that meant absolutely nothing. And for that very reason, I kind of hope that he wouldn't break the Barry record. If somebody's going to break it, it needs to be against competition that is adequate to garnering that record. Now, Ashton Jeanty is still one of the best running backs in the country, but we all hear about the SEC and the ESPN 247 love fest that's constantly being pushed into their country. But when you look at the top running backs in the country, the other day there was only like 46 individuals in America that have rushed for only over 1,000 yards in the country at all levels. And we have 8 of them in the Big 12. 8 running backs rushed for over 1,000 yards this season in this conference. And then you had Ollie Gordon. Oklahoma State has their worst year since 1994, and he's still able to put up over 880 yards. So if we have a bowl game, it's likely that Ollie Gordon could even hit that 1,000-yard marker. If you put that into context, you add Ollie Gordon, Doak Walker Award winner last season, proving to be the best running back in the country by far, him almost having 900 yards this season when we had probably the worst O-line in the conference is still a major deal. And when you take it into context, 8 out of 46 dudes is like almost 18%. You factor in Ollie Gordon to that mix. Now you're talking almost 20% of all the 1,000-yard production in America came from this conference. It is absolutely preposterous whenever you take into consideration the love fest for the SEC. Guess how many 1,000-yard rushers they produced this year? 3, a whopping 3 dudes compared to the 8 in the Big 12, not even taking into consideration the Ollie Gordon factor. So almost a quarter of the production, almost a quarter of the best running backs in the country all come from the Big 12, and some of them have opportunities to return. When you're talking about R.J. Harvey and Taj Brooks and Cam Scattebo and Ollie Gordon, that is a list of company that is hard to keep. Then you also have Devin Neal. You have a Washington over there at Baylor that put up over 1,000 yards, which I was not 100% aware of. This is the best conference in the country if you're trying to attract running backs. I just put in 8 dudes rushed for over 1,000 yards in the most competitive conference in the country. Did I say the best conference? No, I did not. The most competitive for sure. And being able to fight through attrition and battle through adversity and have wars every single week, I think, is what prepared Arizona State to take on Texas yesterday and make it a whale of a game that they likely should have and could have won, because this targeting idea that they're trying to keep the player safe, it's a fallacy. Can we just stop pretending that we're really trying to protect the players? Because the definition of targeting is face mask to face mask, especially if it's a defenseless player. That happens, but the SEC Love Fest must continue. ESPN must turn out those dollar bills for their favorite sons, which are Texas. They've been propping up this Texas team since last season. Congratulations to Texas winning the Big 12 title and coming in and having a lot of success in the SEC. I actually do think that does make the Big 12 look better. Arizona State fought through a war. Was Arizona State the better team? No, they were not. Arizona State doesn't have 40 NFL dudes on their roster like Texas does. But Arizona State had to battle and fight all season. Meanwhile, Texas got the biggest fluffy schedule physically possible by the SEC. And as much as we like to throw shade down towards that team 71 miles south of Stillwater, they got a murderer's row of a schedule, right? So Texas, you got to give them props. They did win the games they needed to get where they are now. But after watching what Cam Scattebo did against that Texas defense, that stat line, like almost 50 yards passing, a touchdown passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. He got in on the receiving department, 99 yards. He's 1 yard shy of the 100-yard mark. It was breathtaking, to be 100% realistic. I didn't think Cam Scattebo would do that against that defense, which is, again, why I think Ashton Jeanty, he might not even have had 50 yards or 40 yards against that Texas defense with the Boise State offensive line. I don't know if Ashton Jeanty gets 100 yards playing the Texas defense with the Texas O-line. So we have back-to-back years of seeing the best running backs in the country, and then you have a lot of guys like Taj Brooks and R.J. Harvey and Devin Neal and in Washington that you all have to pay attention to. Corey Kiner at Cincinnati quietly had almost 1,200 yards as well. This conference is the bee's knees for dudes who like to run the ball and be something. Just Oklahoma State in general. We have Chuba Hubbard in the NFL. We have Jalen Warren in the NFL. We have Justice Hill in the NFL, and they're all massive contributors. We have Ollie Gordon that's about to be catapulted in the NFL. We've got some young guys that we can rely on. Rodney Fields played a lot early. Sesi Vailahi played a lot early. Trent Hallen proved himself to be a dude and a dog and about to be a problem in Stillwater because he was at Indiana. We have the packaging as well to go beside him with Jaden Allen Hendricks. This room is going to continuously get better. And this conference, I think, has now kind of set the mold for running backs in the country that want to have the opportunity to win Doak Walker Awards and present themselves as Heisman candidates like Travis Hunter just was. Cam Scattebo proved he should have been in New York. Should he have won? No, probably not. And the more you look at the schedule and the teams that Boise State played, yeah, they had a couple Power 4 games mixed in there that they did, in fact, win. So you got to give credit where credit is due. But the games where Ashton Jeanty's putting up 220, 230, 215, those games were over by halftime. So it's hard to have the respect level of getting close to Barry's numbers when you don't do anything that Barry Sanders did. So it's nice to see the record is still safe. I do think that somebody's going to break it eventually, but it should be somebody in this conference, or at least in a conference of substance. Yeah, the SEC only produced 3,000-yard rushers all year. The vaunted big, bad bullies of the SEC only had 3 of them. At least the Big Ten was pretty competitive with the Big 12. They got pretty close with the same number. I think they had 6 or 7. We had 8, right? This is the conference for running back. So if you are a running back, and you now see the new landscape of the Big 12. The Big 12 used to be the high-flying conference that was going to put up 50, 60, 70 points, and there was not a whole lot of defense being played. That is still, for some reason, the perception of the Big 12 on the national scene. We need to change that, having a Doak Walker Award winner last year and what should have been the Doak Walker Award winner this season that proves that if you're a running back, that wants to get yourself into those conversations and into the NFL, that almost every Big 12 school is capable of helping you achieve those numbers and get to that level. Just like we all know, if we're trying to achieve bigger numbers in the banking department, the monetary gain side of it, there's nowhere to go but FanDuel. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Hammering the over in Cowboy football was a difficult proposition this season. But now the NFL playoffs are right around the corner. It's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $200 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet is a winner. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up the next W. We just talked about Oklahoma State being part of that RBU conversation. I love what we have going. I think that Jalen Warren, Justice Hill, Tylan Wallace, Tyreek Hill all have the capability to continue upping the national perception of Oklahoma State alongside a dude like Mason Rudolph. You need to get in on these guys and catapult your earnings by joining FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com. Go there for your chance to win 250 bones back in bonus bets if your first $5 hauler is a winner. You need to make sure that every moment matters more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So now we get to roll into some wrestling conversation, and the deeper this thing gets, the more important David Taylor becomes. He recently had an interview talking about how he wants Oklahoma State to once again become the destination, not only for wrestlers around the area, but nationally, internationally. I think Rin Sakamoto coming over from Japan is going to be absolutely massive for this wrestling program. The international view that it has, because of a dude like David Taylor, has put us in a position to be very competitive this season. Again, winning a natty over Penn State is very, very, very unlikely. Penn State last year was the record-setting team with the most amount of points in NCAA history. They return a decent amount of that roster. Therefore, they are projected to do the same thing this season. Are they going to beat last season's Penn State record? Maybe not. But they have more than enough dudes to get another natty. The competition between second place, however, is absolutely massive between Oklahoma State, Iowa. There's going to be some others that peek their head around the corner, like Cornell, Iowa State, Missouri, Ohio State even can be problematic. Minnesota goes back to the bee's knees of the top programs in the day. Wyoming's a really good squad that has a lot to prove. But Oklahoma State is in a good spot to compete with Iowa for second this season. And being second is okay right now. After being a team that competes for national titles year after year after year after year, the expectation until Cale Sanderson kind of turned Penn State into this churning machine that they are, Oklahoma State was the spot, right? Oklahoma State, Iowa, Minnesota, those were really the top destinations. Of course, you had Cale Sanderson at Iowa State, which continues to lure people into Ames and be productive. Same can be said about Mizzou. But this battle for number 2, it's going to take an uptick because guess what? We get to face Iowa at the end of the year. It's going to be an epic matchup. I would say likely the biggest duel of the season because I don't know what Penn State has going. Of course, Ohio State will be a good duel. They have some other Big Ten matchups like Minnesota and Ohio State and Michigan that are all going to be kind of problematic, but none to the level of Oklahoma State and the vitriol that's been building with Penn State and Oklahoma State. It's natural because David Taylor, he's a Penn State Nittany Lion legend. It would be like Daniel Cormier taking a job at Penn State or Iowa or something to that effect. It would be almost catastrophic feeling that one of our biggest legends of all time took a job elsewhere, and now he's all in on developing that program into overtaking us. I understand the frustration down in State College. I understand the irritation because he was also able to bring over guys like Thomas Gilman and Roman Bravo Young to help with this kind of new trend of Cowboy wrestling alongside Jimmy Kennedy as well. So a lot of the guys that were responsible for helping Cale Sanderson get their teams to scoring more points than everybody else and being more creative in doing so came from the Magic Man, David Taylor, and his staff in the developmental side of the game. Also, from an RTC standpoint, that was clearly a big weapon that they utilized at Penn State. was getting the development of the younger guys to a level that it was going to be a feeder program to Penn State, and that's essentially what he's done already at Oklahoma State. Of course, helping Roman Bravo Young is going to be somebody like a Dayton Fix, who's in charge of that RTC program. So as it pertains to winning in Natty this season, it's going to take a bunch of Penn State injuries likely for that to happen, just because they're putting up points still that equal the record-breaking season they had last season, right? But the real question is, are we going to have some individual champions? Our buddy Low Single, Thomas, just kind of put out a deal saying that he fully anticipates Wyatt Hendrickson being able to battle Gable Stevenson for a title. I know that there's another individual that's going to be factored into that mix as well, top 3 at the heavyweight position. But you've also got dudes that are making a big name for themselves. I love watching Dean Hamidi Jr. wrestle, and I think that he's going to have a capability to potentially crown an individual national champion in Stillwater, which we haven't done, unfortunately, since the chaotic AJ Ferrari freshman year. Now, we all know how that transpired. He will be somebody to pay attention to at Cal Bakersfield or wherever he's at now. He is going to be one of the tops in the country, especially at that weight. Could be a good time for Luke Serber. Could be a good time for Wyatt Hendrickson. Kind of depends on where AJ falls there. That'll be a fun matchup to watch. And then you have some other dudes that could potentially make some stuff happen. On paper, Dustin Plott is going to be able to do a significant amount to potentially put himself in position to win a national title. So you've got Wyatt Hendrickson, you've got Dean Hamidi, you've got Dustin Plott. Those are 3 candidates that very easily could find a way to win a national championship. I say very easily. It won't be easy, right? There's going to be guys that are already ranked ahead of them. There's going to be guys that have placed in national title matches this previous season that are going to be gunning for him. And then you also have some wild card dudes like Troy Spratley. Is Troy Spratley the best 125er in America? Probably not, but he's good enough to upset some dudes and make moves at the top. Cam Amin, big time get coming over, but it hasn't really transpired. Caleb Fish, he was an individual that performed a lot, especially in the Big Ten. Is it going to kind of correlate to having the success that he's looking for in Stillwater this season, especially when originally he was supposed to redshirt? We've got a lot of things in wrestling that make it exciting, and the fact that we're putting out bigger wrestling crowds than basketball, I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I think it's good. And in his recent interview, when he talked about making Oklahoma State the mecca for all of college wrestling all across the country, he also wants it to be that way from a fan perspective. He understands that Gallagher Abba Arena gets behind the wrestling crews a little bit more than 98% of other wrestling programs across the country. I would imagine we put more butts in the seats than some of the other top guys like Michigan and Ohio State, Minnesota, Mizzou, Iowa State. I imagine that the support that we have is very clearly on the same level, if not higher, than Penn State. He understands that. He sees that, and he's trying to grow it, trying to build it. If there's one thing that maybe Steve Lutz could potentially possibly do to help with the attendance, it's win. Okay, you got to win. But you also kind of do a little bit of salesmanship, a little bit of marketing. And David Taylor is asking for Oklahoma State fans to continue to make Gallagher Iba a place where other wrestling programs fear coming. Now, we know OU doesn't want any part of Stillwater America because they refuse to come to Stillwater. They're making us go to Norman, and that's fine. We'll continue to do so because we love beating down a little baby Bedlam brother as much as physically possible. And since we beat the tar out of them in several sports, including football, 2 of the last 3 trips, we own that crown of Big Brother. So you're welcome, OU fans. You're also, I don't know, pretty soft. Right? OU won't go to Stillwater. Basketball doesn't want to go to Stillwater either. Softball doesn't want to go to Stillwater either, which is kind of funny. How many OU fans are posturing about how chicken is shiz niz, Mike Gundy, and some of the upper-ups of Oklahoma State that don't want to play Bedlam and football anymore? I don't agree with that. I never did agree with that. I always did think it was a little bit of a chicken shiz niz comment. But Mike Gundy was right. OU was the one who bounced like a thief in the night, trying to be all cute and cool. So they deserve the season that they got. I mean, it is what it is. I would like to bring it back as soon as physically possible, but nonetheless, we get to play them in other sports. And in a lot of those other sports, they refuse or do not want to come anywhere around Stillwater, Oklahoma, because they understand that we get behind our product more than they do. Outside of football and gymnastics and softball, they don't really get behind a whole heck of a lot, which is kind of sad because they have a really good basketball team right now that they should probably find a way to get behind. And it's not like it's difficult to fill up Lloyd Noble Arena, or should we call it Lloyd Noble Junior High School Gymnasium. That's what it is. It is what it is. They might want to find a way to spend their money a little bit better and maybe a little bit more on basketball. Maybe they have money floating in places they don't quite understand, which is why they need some help, and we can help them. Ladies and gentlemen, our brethren down south, they need a lot of help, and they need to find some semblance of an actual arena that is competent in the Power 3, Power 4 landscape. They currently do not have that, but they can get it, and we can help them. By utilizing a Rocket Money, they can find subscriptions they forgot about or things that they've been paying for multiple times. It definitely happens to all of us, right? It's not just them. I've had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. Rocket Money is going to make it so easy for you and me to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant with you 24/7. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel the unwanted subscriptions, monitor spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings together everything all in one place, whether it's the subscriptions, spending habits, or even just building up for the goals you want to hit. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members about $740 a year while using all of the app's premium features. The best feature is probably the subscription tracker. This is going to allow you to have canceled services that you don't realize you're using anymore. You're going to be able to save a ton of money. Plus, with their goals feature, you're going to be able to automatically set aside money for the future. There's going to be no more stressing about budgeting every single month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions now and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Go there to get your funding a little bit better without wasting what you don't realize you're losing. All righty, y'all. The Cowgirl basketball team deserves much more conversation because they just dominated Baylor. Jasmine Player, assistant coach for JC Hoyt, who's been able to coach herself to a couple W's on the sideline, filling in for JC when JC was going through having the baby and taking care of the baby. Jasmine Player comes home, and we take on an 11-2 Baylor squad. The 12-1 Cowgirls go down to Waco to play the 11-2 Baylor Lady Bears, and we smash them by like 20 points. And it was maybe the most complete game of the season. Tegan Magassa had a phenomenal day. Anna Gredassi continues to do her thing from the outside. Whenever you're looking at Micah Gray having some of the capabilities to spot up and help out that we haven't had in the past. This is a really well-rounded ball club. And then Macy Heward. She can calmly drop 25, 30 points on any given night, but she also has a role to play, and she plays it masterfully. This team can shoot from the outside. We've got a tried and true center down low. As long as she can stay out of foul trouble, we're going to be able to do a lot of things, and we are now another W on the books. So we're the 12-1 Cowgirls after taking on Baylor. Rank us, you cowards. This Cowgirl ball team is a top 25 club. And this is now kind of setting us up to be prime real estate for a Big 12 title in Cowgirl basketball, which none of us anticipated coming into the season. We lost a decent amount of transfers. Last year, we had a lot of injuries. There was a lot of things going on that we didn't know was going to be able to be solidified. And then you bring in only a couple freshmen, but then you already have Jaden Wooten, freshman, that is not only playing and contributing, but you can tell she's going to be a driving force to the success on the future, maybe even in this season. This is a team with a lot of pieces and a lot of depth, which is the exact opposite of what we had last year. JC, unfortunately, was largely playing with like 7 or 8 players most of last season, including spurts where she didn't have Loyor or Anna Gret, really doing everything from the outside. Anna Gret, her game has developed. The mid-range jumper is there. The ability to get into the lane and score instead of just dish has progressed. This is a really good ball club that you can't isolate, right? Like, you can't just stop Anna Gret. You can't just stop Tegan Magassa. You can't just stop Micah Gray. You can't just stop most of this team. Because if you do shut down one, we have others, right? And we haven't even talked about Staley Hurd, one of the best basketball players in the conference. She quietly plays this role of when we need her, she's there. And when we need her to facilitate, play defense, and help in transition, she also does that as well. She went from the key last season. If her and Anna Gret weren't scoring, we were not winning. This year, we have other pieces that we can rely upon to get W's. Stacey Jones is another individual. This is a really good sign for really good times for Cowgirl basketball. And we need to continue to build that excitement from a fan base perspective. We just talked about how in love David Taylor is with Gallagher-Iba and how he knows it can become the Mecca destination for all wrestlers all across the country and all fans around the Midwest and the country and internationally as well. If you want to come watch top-notch wrestling on a daily basis, you need to come to Stillwater, America. You need to be inside Gallagher-Iba Arena. We need to do the same thing for basketball. Men's hoops, yes. Winning against Houston would have likely done that, but Houston's one of the best teams in the country, not just the conference, that is still the strongest conference in America. This Cowboy basketball club is fun to watch. And like I said, there's going to be days that we shoot well, and those days that we shoot well, we're going to be a problem. Calvin Sampson had a lot of wonderful things to say about Steve Lutz. Make sure y'all go check that out. And the Cowgirls keep on cruising. Wrestling has an Air Force duel as well today. Make sure that you guys get eyeballs on that because we're trying to kind of catch up on the points game. It's Penn State, Iowa, Oklahoma State, and then pretty much everybody else. We need to continue to close that gap, and we also need to continue to fill up Gallagher-Iba Arena, whether it's dead week, summer, spring, winter, fall. That place is so iconic and legendary. It should be packed to the brim all the time. I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. I'm going to beat this dead horse repeatedly. There's more than 13,000 people in Stillwater alone that should be able to fill that thing up. There's over 13,000 students on campus alone that should be able to fill that thing up. There's zero excuse for having under 6,000, 7,000 seats filled up in Gallagher-Iba Arena, whether it's wrestling, men's basketball. I think women's basketball should even get to a level where 8,000, 10,000 is an expectation. Gallagher-Iba has... It's disrespectful. Anytime I see that building half empty, no matter who's on the court or the floor or the mat, it's only right to get irritated, frustrated, want to throw things and break things because that building by itself should garner enough respect to fill it out. I don't care who's playing, what the score is, what sport it is. It's Gallagher-Iba flipping arena. Like, what are we doing? Fill it up. For every sport, it makes no sense for anything to have under 6,000, 7,000 in that building, no matter what. It should be 8,000 to 12,000 pretty regularly. We'll eventually get it back to where 13,611 is the expectation. We'll get it there, but we have to do our part, and you got to show up. We got to show out. All right, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. We're getting on actually, we'll already be at our destination. By the time you see this, I'll be in Oklahoma. I got to go see my uncle. He's having some medical issues. Say a prayer for him. Actually, say double prayers because the poor fellow's also an OU fan, so he needs them. All righty, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike if you don't. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcasting people out there, you know what you are. The bread, the bricks, the butter, the fountain, the fondue, funny stuff, funky stuff. You're all of it. You're the pulse that makes this thing go. Do me a favor. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. Later, my taters.